Hey everybody, been getting a lot of questions about trading in real time, and obviously we're all here to do that because we want to get better at trading or become traders in the first place. So I do think that it's really important to really understand reading the market profile, and that's like first and foremost, just so you can understand how the auction works and all of that good stuff. But I think you can do these things simultaneously. And so what I've got here is a replay of today. And that's one of the best things the Sierra chart offers. And a lot of these programs offers this replay that you can, reconstruct what happened today and go back in and learn from it. So I'm doing this in real time, and I was just watching this and I thought it'd be a good thing to share. So what I've got here is this morning. And this is right before open. So right now we're at 7:29 my time. So the market opens in about 30 seconds actually. And so one of the things that you're doing right before the market opens is looking at where we're about to open. And what it looks like to me is we're going to be opening right at yesterday's high. So what I'm going to do is watch the open and show you a couple things that I've been looking at, and just how you could have traded this. And so I'll be speeding this up to make it a lot faster so we don't have to sit here and watch it all. But what happened this morning was, let's back up to yesterday too, is that late yesterday, price kind of spent time most of the morning down here. It went down a little bit. That was rejected. So we held the previous overnight low, it rejected it, came back up, and then late afternoon we had a bit of a spike. And so coming into today's session, we're opening up around that spike. And so this left excess at the top of the profile yesterday, meaning that the auction is over. And so what I'm looking at today is, can we take out this high? Can we take out the overnight high? And what you'll see, and what I'll show as this goes along, is that it doesn't happen. And so I'm going at one time speed, and I'm going to speed it up a bit so we can kind of cut ahead here. So I'm going to pause and play. All right, so what happens is, and I'll pause this when I see what I see, but in the first, and what I wrote about in my first 30-minute or first hour article the other day is just that the initial balance range happens during the first hour, and a lot of times you can really get chopped up in this area. Nothing, we're still waiting for that to form. And so if you would have gone long here, short here, that you would have not really had a good reason to do so. So instead, let that form, because oftentimes in the first 30 minutes, we either set an extreme or become really, really close. We are now 15 minutes into the market opening, and this thing is still, so let me pause there. So we open here, and this is really balanced on both sides. It's not doing anything. Really, one of the things you always want to look for at market open is whether we're opening in yesterday's range, which we did, or we're opening in yesterday's value area, which we didn't. And one of the things that you want to watch for is, do we break that range or not? And so if the market does break beyond the extreme of yesterday, that's where you're going to get really good potential for a breakout or for more. Shoot, I just did something wrong. You'll get more potential for a price move up. And so here it is. And if we were to break out above that, who knows where price could go. But we're looking for that. The other thing I've noticed in the past, and I've pointed out in the past, is a lot of times price will open up, it'll go up, and then it'll come back down. And so that's why you really want to watch out for that early part of the day. So I'm going to play this again. We're now 17, almost 20, coming up on 20 minutes post open, and I'm going to speed it up one more time so we can get closer to the first 30 minutes closing. And so during a market session, and this is one of the things I've pointed out several times in the past, is that you can use those buying tails and selling tails during a market session. And in this case, we're looking to see, did price hold or go out of yesterday's high? And the next thing we want to know is it going to leave any excess? And so in this situation, you can now see, I'm going to delete that. You can now see that price tried to come above yesterday. Ultimately, it went up here, but this was rejected. We didn't even make it to the overnight high, and it left a selling tail. So this is excess at the top. Now, that can be breached later on, and that's yet another reason to wait for that close. But the other thing I want to point out is that, and I had pointed this out previously, but we have this balance area here, and the bottom part of it is at 3,300. And so the question is, can we get back into balance? That balance range at this point, we're one time framing down, and so I'm not sure how relevant it is. But what I did, hold on, let me go back. So what I want to look at then is what was the opportunity in the tell this morning to get us, into a trade. So two things have happened at this point. One, price tested yesterday's high, and at this point, at this moment in time, it's rejected it. That's the first 30 minutes. The other thing is that went a little above the open and came back down, and so you've got this selling tail. Of course, there's always risk in these trades, and there's risk that this doesn't pan out, but this was your tell so far. We're one time framing down, like I just said. We did not, we're starting to trade right around that balance area at 3,300. And the other thing is that now we're starting to trade further into yesterday's range. And at this point, what I said about breaking out of yesterday's range has not happened. And if anything, we're starting to move back into yesterday's value area. So at this point, and this is another thing that I'd mentioned in the piece that I wrote, but at this point, you've got this opportunity during the second 30 minutes for price to trace back. And so I'm going to play it again, and let's watch what happens as it tries to get over that 3,300. So a couple things that we know at this point. One, we're time framing down. Two, it didn't make it outside of yesterday's higher upper limit. And three, as I said, oftentimes you do get that extreme set early in the session, whether that's the first 30 minutes, whether it's the first 60 minutes. Oftentimes during the first 30 minutes, we get really close, if not actually setting that extreme. And so at this point, and I'm actually I went a little too far, but basically what happened was price came up to 3,300 again. It looks like we tested around 3,303 and then rejected. So at this point, you've got a selling tail. We're one time framing down on the daily and the weekly. And you also know that it's very likely that an extreme is set or very close to set in the first 30 minutes. And so if you would have put a short in right here, needless to say, the market was down today and you would have made a fair amount of money, depending on how long you would have held on. The other thing I'll note is that we are now, at this point, price has come well into the value area from yesterday. And oftentimes you'll see that when we get back into the value area, it's just going to trade across the value area. It doesn't always happen, but it's, some folks use it as a rule of thumb. And at the very least, now that we're back in the value area, you could have targeted the point of control. You could have targeted maybe the other side. Either way, you would have been right. And if you were, even more bold, or if you were even more, higher conviction, you could have held on. And, we came way down here today. So that's how you trade in a real session. That's just an example. And I think I might start doing more of these replays for myself just to learn how to read the market in real time after what's happened. Hey, one other thing to note is that at this point, we've traded all the way in, and during the C period, it's come back up. So you could also have thought that perhaps we're going to have a balanced day. We're just going to kind of rotate inside of here, and that's why you monitor for continuation, but not really getting into that right now. In any case, you've got a few elements at this point to take a trade, and so just wanted to share that.